Good afternoon. My name is James Holmes. I'm the Deputy Director of the City Emergency Operations Center, here to give you a current weather update. So currently, the National Weather Service has issued an alert for the City of San Diego and the county for flash floods from 9:55 to 1:25 p.m. today, likely due to the heavy rain that did start at 10:30 today. Last night, San Diego did receive slightly less rain than forecasted for a 12-hour period from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We saw an average about an inch of rain that fell. Serrano Valley saw about 1.5 inches, Mission Valley saw 1.4 inches, Chollas Creek saw 1.33 inches, and Tijuana Riverbed saw 1.58 inches in that total period of 12 hours. As of 10:30 this morning, the leading edge of the rain is over San Diego City now and should be covering. And that is the brunt of the rain. We may see a few more rain bands with a chance of thunderstorms through noon. The showers do not end. They go through Wednesday through Friday, but they should be tapering off as per the National Weather Service. Upcoming weather through this evening, about a half inch of rain is predicted going through this evening for the next 12-hour period in general for the city. Due to the storms hit in Los Angeles City and Northern, some of our resource requests that we have currently supporting us are going to be redirected back up north. And so now that we got resources when we were in need, and now that they're in need, we're going to go ahead and redirect them up north as we start to move into more of a recovery after the initial rain today, moving through Friday. The Emergency Operations Center remains activated to provide support to the city and the community all the way through this incident. The city is fully equipped and prepared last night to meet any demands, and we are opening the Local Assistance Center, which was originally scheduled to be closed today due to the rain. Now that we've seen the brunt of it go through, we're going to reopen that at 1 o'clock today. It's going to go to 7 p.m. at the Mountain View Recreation Center. Little update on the sandbags. The pre-filled sandbags will continue to be available at the Mountain View Recreation Center and the Encanto Recreation Center. And we will continue to acquire more sandbags and sand so they can be disseminated throughout the city for as long as there is a demand. For any updated information, please go to sandiego.gov/storm. Thank you. That's all I have.
Good morning, everyone. Colin, Fire Chief for the San Diego Fire Rescue Department. Fire Rescue Department continues to upstaff with extra firefighters, lifeguards, and dispatchers. We've got 8 lifeguard swiftwater rescue teams still deployed throughout the city of San Diego in the flood-prone areas. They'll be staffed all 24 hours, housed out of fire stations throughout the city. We've got extra dispatchers in our 911 center, as well as I said, extra firefighters staffing up extra fire engines throughout the city. I ask you to remain diligent and cautious about any areas that if you live in flood-prone areas. You did an exceptionally well job yesterday as far as following our request to stay home, limit your outdoor activities. Our 911 center received 975 calls over the last 24 hours. We had about 358 emergency responses throughout the city, and about 44 were specifically associated with flood or water rescues. We did have 2 water rescues, one in the South Bay and one in Mission Valley. And again, we ask everyone, we know that we've got more storm activity coming in this afternoon and this evening. We ask that you continue to limit your activities out there, stay off the roads. Everything you've done so far has really helped us being able to respond to the emergencies that we have had and really reduce those numbers. And so, of course, we'll be available for any questions afterwards. Now I'll turn it over to the Director of Transportation, Bethany Bezak.
Hi, good afternoon, folks. Storm Patrol teams are out across the city ahead of the rain and during the storm. What that means is the full force of the transportation and stormwater departments, a full 350 individuals are out in the field today and will be through this evening's hours, patrolling every single section of the city, inspecting inlets, unclogging drains, preventing flooding, assessing downed trees. We're responding to calls in any flooded roads and downed trees. So far in the past 24 hours, crews have received more than 500 total storm-related calls to our Public Works Dispatch Center, including 27 calls for flooding, 17 tree-related calls, and 23 block drain calls. We have also responded to 67 emergency calls for issues like flooding, mudslides, and traffic signals. For perspective, on Monday, we started with 3 road closures, and today, just 24 hours later, we have almost 50 road closures identified across the city due to flooding. When the ground is saturated like it is today, after all of the rain that we've had over the past several weeks, rain always brings more potential for downed trees. So it's very important that residents stay vigilant and watch for those issues. If you see any flooding or a downed tree, please call our Public Works dispatch number 619-527-7500. And of course, please track all road closures at sandiego.gov/storm. I'll hand it over to Todd Snyder, Stormwater Director.
Thanks, Bethany. Good morning, everybody. So obviously, San Diego is very well known for its water. Pacific Ocean, beaches, bays, where we are here today. What's not as well known is the extensive storm drain system that underlies all of our communities. So we literally have thousands of storm drains that go under our streets and under our neighborhoods that feed into storm channels, which we've been hearing a lot about over the last couple weeks. Those systems are what our department here in Stormwater is set up to make sure that are functioning appropriately. Here in Mission Bay, where we're located today, we've also got 15 pump stations that help pump stormwater that accumulates in low-lying areas out to Mission Bay and out to the San Diego River. So since yesterday, as you heard from James Holmes, our EOC director, we've received anywhere from an inch to up to over an inch and a half. The good news is that the storm that has been coming in is much different than what we saw a couple of weeks ago. So the storm that we've been seeing is coming in very slow and steady. That is something that our infrastructure can handle very well. 2 weeks ago, some of the intensity is what really caused problems, where we saw a couple of inches or more than a couple of inches come down in a single hour. So that's the difference between 2 weeks ago versus where we are today. So I'm happy to report that all of our channels and our pump stations are functioning appropriately. They're containing the floodwaters, and our storm water pump stations are all up and functional. Some of the key locations, obviously, that we're monitoring very closely include a lot of the communities that were impacted so heavily 2 weeks ago. So South Crest, Mountain View, Encanto, and others. I'm happy to report that all of those channels are containing the stormwater. But we do have crews that are out actively patrolling, looking for any issues that may arise. So as Bethany mentioned, our stormwater and transportation staff are going to continue in storm patrol mode and will be on the ready to respond to any requests or calls that we get in from the public. Thanks, and I think with that, we're open to take questions.
When was storm patrol first initiated?
For this current storm?
Yeah, for this whole
So we have been on storm patrol since the last storm that came in on February 1st. So we never took our crews off of storm patrol, and they are continuing on through today and will through most of this week as long as the rain continues.
And why wasn't storm patrol initiated before January 22nd?
Storm patrol was initiated before January 22nd. We initiate storm patrol prior to any kind of significant forecasted event.
So when was it initiated first? Like before this January 22nd storm?
I don't have the exact time, but it was certainly at the initiation of that rain event on January 22nd.
What are you doing to monitor 42nd Street for flood levels? That flood control channel south Cholla Street?
Yeah, so when we're in storm patrol mode, what that means is our crews from stormwater and transportation come off of their normal duties and they're assigned to zones, right? So every section of the city is assigned a zone, and that area in Mountain View and South Crest are part of a zone. So we have a storm patrol zone supervisor who's there triaging calls that we get. We also have crews that are driving around proactively looking for any issues that they can identify. So it's both a proactive and a reactive patrol of multiple staff that are literally just driving around the area and responding to issues.
Previously, at a previous news conference, we were basically told the city doesn't have the funds and environmental review holds up the clearing of storm channels. Now we've seen that South Choice Creek channel has been cleared in a few days. Where is the money coming from for that, and what allowed you to bypass environmental review to do that?
Yeah, so the mayor's declaration order, which happened, I believe, the day of the storm on January 22nd, really initiated that whole emergency process. The difference between our standard practices and what we're doing now is we're actually doing clearing of channels first, then negotiating all of the requirements and the mitigation obligations after the fact. So we are in emergency mode under something called a Regional General Permit 63 issued by the Army Corps of Engineers, where because of the imminent and sudden threat of this situation, we are clearing channels first, then negotiating with all of the agencies on what the mitigation is going to look like after the fact. Typically, we have to do that negotiation ahead of time before we start clearing the channels.
And where's the money coming from now to do that if the city didn't have the money before?
So that's going to have to be something that's addressed next week, I believe, or actually tomorrow. There is a council item that's going to be considering some additional funds associated with this emergency, so that's going to be heard by council.
And I had a question from someone else that wanted to know if FEMA disaster funds have been allocated and what's the process for that to get FEMA disaster declared?
Right now, that process is in place, and they just finished up their assessments, and so they're moving forward with that assessment. It's an administrative process, and it's still moving forward. We don't have an end date for that right now, but I can get back to you when we expect to see an answer for that.
Is there a number of houses that have to make it qualify for a FEMA disaster, or what's the process that makes it able to be declared a FEMA disaster?
There are thresholds to monetary thresholds of damage assessed, and also thresholds for numbers of homes that are destroyed or damaged. And those thresholds I do not have with me right now. I have a subject matter expert in the Office of Emergency Services, and those people are working on that with the mayor's staff and with all the departments right now.
But those thresholds have not been reached yet, as far as you know?
Right now, they're still calculating out the damage to see if those thresholds are going to be met. Correct.
Is there any update to the number of people who have been placed in hotels and motels?
Right now, that is an active process, and I don't have those numbers for you right now, but that is something that is moving forward right now.
I have that number I can get to you after
Yep.
this. Is there any closures anticipated near the bluffs?
I would defer to Chief.
Right now, we have no planned closures along the coastline. We have teams out there monitoring for that, but as of right now, there is no closures at the beaches or in the, on the bluffs.
We've been monitoring the Get It Done app. Can someone talk about response to that and how quickly, if somebody reports something in, maybe Bethany, if they report something in the Get It Done app, how soon can they expect something to be done?
Yes, absolutely. So the best method for any emergency or high priority needs during a storm event is Station 38 Public Works Dispatch. That's the number that I previously had provided. That ensures the fastest response time during a storm event. Of course, if there's any public health or safety imminent needs, 911 is the best number. Other than that, any types of maintenance requests are best directed to Get It Done. So we're seeing definitely an increase in the number of pothole requests and other needs across our city. For any high priority emergency needs, we're addressing those today as we receive them. Any other maintenance needs for additional potholes or other things in the right of way that are not urgent today will be addressed as soon as the rain stops.
Are there extra crews responding to this increase in Get It Done requests?
Again, we have the full force of the transportation and stormwater departments fully deployed to the storm. So they are in storm patrol mode. They will shift over the upcoming days into other duties as we see the needs decrease. We also have additional contracting capacity. If we see that there are any high priority, urgent CIP types of projects, we'll also be bringing on contractors as needed.
Why wasn't there any preventative channel maintenance before the January 22nd event?
So we in Stormwater Department do have a preventative channel maintenance program. We have a team of about 15 people who are focused on maintaining channels throughout the year. Now, because of environmental regulations, typically what we can do to maintain channels has to take place between middle of September and middle of March. That's because that's bird breeding season. So our season to maintain channels is during the rain season. So we're constantly in a race against time to get as many channels cleared as we can. As we've been saying throughout this last couple of weeks, we're funded to do 4 channels where we have an inventory of about 200. So there were 4 channels that were prioritized for cleaning that were presented to City Council and the Environment Committee in November of 2023. And we were in the middle of those 4 channels. So we had completed one called the Pomerado Channel up in Rancho Bernardo. We were in the middle of cleaning a channel within Chollas Creek called the Rolando Channel. And next on our list was the Alpha Channel, which is one of the channels in that segment of South Crest Boulevard. So South Crest was on the list of planned preventive channel maintenance clearing for this fiscal year. It was going to get started in about February or March, but of course the storm hit on January 22nd.
But is my understanding from your permitters that you can use the RPG 63 to do preventative maintenance when, in the rainy season, there's even a staff report that notes that you would initiate storm patrol before a rain coming, so.
The RGP 53 is intended for emergency channel clearing, not preventative maintenance.
So do you feel you don't have the permission to do the kind of preventative channel maintenance work that the city needs to do before storm events?
There is a process in place, but as I've mentioned several times, there are budget constraints, but there's also a process that we have to go through ahead of time to advise the regulatory agencies which channels we're going to maintain. And as part of that notification, we have to prove that we have secured off-site environmental mitigation for any kind of wetland impacts that come. In our emergency situation, as I just explained, we're doing the channel maintenance first, and we'll negotiate the mitigation requirements after the fact.
I saw a report that Alpha Channel section, which is the area that was hard hit, construction and clearing was supposed to begin in late 2023. How come it got delayed to, as you say, March 2024?
The Stormwater Department has one crew of 15 staff that do channel maintenance. That crew has to be fully deployed. Maintaining a channel is a very involved process. So we had 4 channels we were trying to maintain. It was 3rd on our list. We were in the middle of doing our 2nd priority channel. The Rolando,
real quick.
Pomerado Channel in Rancho Bernardo, Rolando Channel in the Chollas Creek watershed. The 3rd was Alpha Channel in South Crest, and the 4th is called Titus, and I'm going to have to get back to you on a specific location for Titus.
Generally speaking, I saw some reports that said, oh, this Alpha Channel area might be able to withstand a 5-year flood. Other channels might be able to withstand a 100-year flood. Do you have a general principle that your channels should be targeted to a certain year flood where they should be able to withstand?
So the gold standard, generally, if you're going to be building a channel today, is a 100-year flood. That's generally what's seen as the appropriate level of channel design. Many of our channels were built literally decades ago. And so given all the urbanization that has happened in our communities since those channels were built, most of our inventory, it's true, is set up to handle somewhere between a 5 and a 10-year storm. And that, I would say, is whether we're maintaining the channel in terms of getting vegetation out or not. So even if we would have maintained the Alpha Channel prior to January 22nd, it's still only designed to handle a 10-year storm. And what we saw with those intense rain events on January 22nd were well beyond a 10-year storm. Over an hour to 2-hour duration was 1,000-year storm intensities.
So you're saying this Alpha Channel, if it was completely cleared out and scraped, it would only handle a 10-year storm?
That's correct.
So we're at the last question. We want to give the update on the housing placement, and then we'll conclude.
Can you describe
No, we're going to give the update on the housing placement, and we're concluding.
We have a quick update on the emergency shelter and housing assistance. These numbers are as of 2/4, so 2 days ago. The San Diego Housing Commission's emergency hotel placement, we've triaged a total of 256 households, and that's for emergency housing needs. We can tell you at this point, keep in mind these numbers are from 2 days ago, 117 households have been placed into hotels, and that includes their pets. We also know that 41 households have moved into the Ramada Inn property. Additional 98 households have been connected to some other resources, and we're still working to triage additional 200 additional households, and that's coming from community-based organizations.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
One more question. Can anyone comment on the tornado warning in Chula Vista? You guys got anything on that? Is a tornado warning in Chula Vista right now?
We're the city right now, City of San Diego, so
Any concerns about that type of weather here?
we're at time.
Todd, can I grab you for a single?